Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to GEEXX Reads. Today I'd like to talk to the next book in the Mercy Thompson series. I'm sure I got the chronological order right this time. Iron Kissed, an image of which you will see here. Sorry about the picture behind me. I couldn't get any better than that. I couldn't find a bigger image, a clearer image than that. So you're stuck with remembering that one. So this is, where are we? Because I did a couple of this is really only the third book in the main series. Wow. Somewhat surprised because a lot happens in this book. Although this book is slower paced. I am also, before I get too far, going to be spoiling a lot more than I usually do because there's something I want to talk about. Basically, I'm going to spoil the end of the book, so telling you that up front. If you haven't read this book so far, if you haven't read the series, and you want to avoid the spoilers, I'll try and give you a heads up warning. But the basic outline of the book, the book opens up with Mercy watching movies with Kyle and Warren. Mercy's still having to deal with some of the nightmares she received from having to deal with the demon-ridden vampire from the previous book. And the Fae call in a favor. She owes them a favor from the previous book. Uncle Mike, who runs a Fae tavern, and Z, her mentor, basically asked her to call her for help. They're calling in a favor, asking her for help. There have been some killings on the Fae reservation, and as she can shift into a coyote, they think that her ability to distinguish scents might help. So she does as she's asked. She does find one scent that is in all the various locations of all the murders that she has taken, scenes she has taken to. However, she next day, I'm not sure, but a couple days later, she gets a phone call that's saying Z has been charged with a murder. Basically, the man who she pointed them at. Mercy believes he is innocent and tries to do her own investigation to figure out what really happened. That's the basic gist of the novel. There are other things going on. There's the ongoing will she, won't she with Adam or with Samuel. Two werewolves who are vying for her attention, who say they're in love with her, and other little minor set pieces that are going on back and forth. I mentioned this book is slower, and it is up to a point. There is some action, but the first half of the book is very slow. It's much more, character driven. Like I said, she's taken the reservation. She does some investigation to find, what scents are the same in each house. So, she meets some other people, little side event. There's like a music festival that Samuel is going to perform at. Mercy goes, it's a big annual event in the area where they live. So major music festival, but there's like little moments like that throughout the story. And aside from, like I said, the murders involved, the pacing is very different from previous books, I think. Both the two previous books in the Mercedes Thompson series and the two books in Alpha Omega, which take place, in between here and there. And we get to see more of Samuel and Adam acting like normal people. So we are developing these characters. We're also interacting with Gabriel, who works for Mercy. We're interacting with Jessie, Adam's daughter. So, as I've said, this is very much a character-driven piece for the first half of the book. And I really enjoy that too. I don't necessarily, at least in that regard, this is one of her best books as far as developing character, but it is, I do find it interesting. I do really enjoy this book, despite the fact that this is probably my fourth or fifth reading of this particular book in the series. But there are other characters who get their time in the sun as well. And which brings me to the spoiler part. So, you know, if you don't want to be spoiled for the end of the book, this is your moment to leave. So, the part that I want to talk about. This book has sexual assault in it, which I probably should have mentioned in the beginning. And for that regard, it's one of the reasons I've been somewhat dreading getting to this book. I thought it was a couple books further down in the series, but it comes on pretty quickly. The sexual assault in question happens at the end of the novel, or towards the end of the novel. There is fey magic involved. Mercy is the victim of the sexual assault. She isn't forced so much as she is coerced with fey magic to have sex with someone, but it's still a sexual assault. But what I wanted to talk about is the aftermath, which in the Alpha Omega series, I mentioned that the main character, Anna, one of the main characters, Anna, has been the victim of sexual assault previously, and Patricia Briggs, I think, dealt well with the trauma aspect of it. And I hadn't really made the correlation that both of the primary female characters in the Mercy Thompson universe are both victims of sexual assault. I don't know why I never made that connection till right this very second, but I did. That's something to think about. I'll have to analyze that some other time. Again, she is dealing with the aftermath of sexual assault here. But we're dealing with Mercy's trauma of that. I mean, it really happens like around here. There's still this much of the book left to go. So we spend a good chunk of the book, good chunk of the ending. Yeah, basically this much of the book is dealing with her trauma. The last 30 or 40 pages is her dealing with it to a certain degree. But what really, really struck hard for me was the person who kind of comes to not necessarily Mercy's rescue. Like I said, it's after the fact, but the person who is most aware of the trauma that she's dealing with. You know, everyone's aware of what happened. She's not everyone, but like the main characters are aware of what's happened to her. They're kind of trying to treat her gently, and but the person who recognizes her trauma, the person who recognizes exactly what she's feeling, is Ben. Now, if you've read the books previously, if you read any of the short stories or read any of the previous two books, you know that Ben is the member of Adam's pack that Mercy hates the most or likes the least. He's foul-mouthed, he's misogynistic, he seems to have nothing but contempt for women. But he's also been the first one to jump in to defend people too, especially Adam. He's deliberately put himself in harm's way for Adam. And other members of the pack as well. Ben is like the first, when he can be, Ben is the first one there, first one to jump into action, which has always surprised Mercy. But he's the one who tells Adam, just, will you shut up and take a real look at her and pay attention to how she's behaving. And it becomes apparent that Ben is a victim of sexual assault as well. He was abused as a child. And because of that, he is the one who recognizes exactly what Mercy's feeling. Him more than anyone else. And it explains some of his behavior. There's more backstory of it in the book of short stories that by Patricia Briggs. He gets his own individual story, and I think it's Streams of Silver. I think is the name of the book. That's not the name of the book. It's something else. Streams of Silver is a different book of short stories. I have to find it. But anyhow, whatever the name of the short story book is, it's gonna bug me now. It's gonna bug me now. Shifting Shadows. I found it. Shifting Shadows. Ben's got his own time in the sun in that book. And we learn more about his abusive childhood there. But Ben's confessions, Ben's willingness to stand up to Adam for Mercy's sake, I thought was so powerfully written. It brought tears to my eyes. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. You know, this man who knows everyone despises him, bears his soul in front of Adam and Mercy. And man, it is just such a powerful 4 or 5 pages. It really, really is. And it's rare that I read something that brings me to tears. I can really think of only a half a dozen times that's happened to me in my over 50 years of reading books. And that's why I wanted to mention it, because it is just such a powerful handful of pages that I just wanted to talk about it. So that's the end of that. There's lots of other books. Mercy will have to continue to deal with further bouts of trauma. We'll have to see how well she deals with it in the other books and other things going forward. So I like the book. As always, thanks for watching. As always, my stuff is crap. And until next time, good hunting.